Righto, so this is a an English early model Ford 10 3-speed manual gearbox. The difference between these and the later models is the greaser, the locating ears, and no dipstick. These ones have a level plug instead. So the modification to stop these gearboxes from jumping out of second gear is something that was given to me by, I've got to credit the late Vance Squires. He showed me what to do. It's basically a something from the factory that they didn't quite get right, so it's always been a problem. Crikey, a dingo. So when you overhaul these gearboxes, you need to put in new carrier bearings and 2 new brass bushes. So I'll just put the phone in the holder. Get that right there. So this is the bearing. These are the carrier bearings that you'll need. So they are, that's the number there, 6205. I'll just open it up. So these have seals in them. The original ones didn't. You can leave the outer one. It just helps to keep the oil in. But just flick the back one out so the gearbox oil can get into it. Now the locating ring is about 35 thou that way. So this is quite handy for the rear bearing, but you will need to shim it for the front bearing. That's what. This is the input shaft. So it has a bush in the end there. You can buy these from small Ford spares. You will need to replace that one. They're usually pretty worn. This is the output shaft. So they have, I'll make another video on how to get that apart. It's in the manual anyway. When you take the second gear off, that's your bush there. They just slide off. Also available from small Ford spares. These second gears, I can get that to focus. They have these little synchronizer teeth. You have to make sure that the 2 faces on them, either side, are parallel. If they're not, it's worn. You will need to buy a new one. These are available. You can get new ones. Anywhere on there will cause it to jump out of gear. This is the other part of it. This is what synchronizes it. So those 2 fit together. These teeth also need to be in good condition. You can actually flick that around and get a new face on it if you've got another one. If you knock it, it's usually got balls in them. You can knock that off, turn it around and put it on and get a new face. But the problem is it can jump out of gear on the overrun. The other thing to check is the brass synchro rings in here. They need to be in really good condition and not loose. So when you go to put it in gear, that rubs on it. And that's what stops the gear from spinning. Right. So this gearbox, I've put this together. So before you pull your gearbox completely apart, just dummy it up. I've put a couple of studs in just to locate the top. So put it into second gear and then carefully take the top off. Put it aside. And what you can see here is there's a gap between the synchronizer and second gear. So the whole modification is to close that up, to make sure that that is fully engaged, because that is the problem from factory, that they're never fully engaged. Other problems cars have had with heavy carpet, holding the gear stick up, or just poor driving habits, people leaning on the gear stick, and as soon as they drop out a few times it wears the teeth and it'll keep doing it. So what we basically need to do is to shim that output shaft further into the gearbox. That's quite easy to do with the new bearings because they're actually they're offset compared to the originals. But the end result is your universal joint locates onto that bearing. So you do have to shim that back to get your universal joint in the right spot. Hopefully this has been helpful. I will make another 2 videos as I machine up the shims and assemble the gearbox completely. Alright, if you check the Dead Slow Facebook site, there'll be more updates on there. Alright, thank you. See ya.